they caused the flood on purpose to get a fresh start on this planet and wipe away the people and everything else and all the technology and start all over again.
Where are the Emerald Tablets today, Billy?
I really believe that the Emerald Tablets, the original version, are underneath the Vatican archives. They were very highly advanced, very sophisticated. The evidence is all around us. We can't duplicate some of the things that they've done just with architecture. Can't imagine what they've been able to do technologically to be able to even to be able to build that architecture.
How did you get involved in all of this? I mean, because the subject matter that you handle isn't something that the everyday person wakes up and goes, hey, I want to go study that.
You know, it really started back from 1977. We lived next to an airport in Miami, Florida called the Opelika Airport, very small private airport. And I saw planes going over my backyard all the time. But this one particular time, I saw an object that went over that didn't look like an airplane. Even as a kid, I didn't know what a UFO or flying saucer was, but I knew what a fuselage and wings looked like.
That you knew?
Yeah, that I knew. And I didn't see that on this object. So I went to Rainbow Park Elementary the next day, went to the library, because this is the 70s, so he had to get the old encyclopedias. So I got all the Encyclopedia Britannicas on aerospace. And I literally started researching aerospace and technology from back then. Much later, what happened was I started saying, okay, I've been researching all this technology. It's got to, maybe linked to something from a long time ago.
Sure.
So I started digging into the ancient past and realizing that they were talking about technology in ancient texts, and started putting two and two together and saying, wow, there could be evidence of a very highly technologically advanced ancient civilization on this planet.
And digging into the ancient past you did, tell me a little bit about Thoth and the Emerald Tablets.
Thoth is an ancient Atlantean priest king. This is what he was called back then. He was also the son of Enki, which was an Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki and the Atlanteans are really one and the same, I should say.
Anunnaki came from another planet called Nibiru.
Right, from another planet named Nibiru, and also other star systems as well, not just Nibiru. They came from multiple star systems, which is one of the things that I talk about in the book. But Thoth himself was basically the bringer of knowledge and wisdom to mankind. And he was ordered by his dad to go around the planet and kickstart civilization all over the planet. And after the Great Flood, he was told to bring back civilization to a high level. And where he was then told to take his crew with him and go out and start off in the land of Chem, which is ancient Egypt before it was called Egypt.
Doesn't Thoth have that bird-like look to him?
Yes. He looks like a bird, like he's got that bird beak, but he's really not a bird man. The bird is the symbol of the ibis beak. And the reason why they chose that symbolization for Thoth is because an ibis bird has to dig its beak deep into the mud to bring up sustenance. So the symbology is basically saying he's going into darkness to bring darkness to light.
Well, let's take a look at Thoth.
The trail of the occult begins in Egypt 5,000 years ago. Just before the rise of Egypt's great pharaohs, hieroglyphics or pictographs were invented. Egyptians used them to document their history and religion, and to practice complex systems of astronomy, astrology, and geometry. They believed their powerful knowledge came from the god Thoth.
Thoth, or Tahuti, was the Egyptian god of magic. And more than just the god of magic, he was the god of writing, of astronomy, of mathematics and science. He invented language, invented writing.
Only priests with special training were allowed access to Thoth's sacred knowledge. Imhotep, builder of the first pyramid, was one of the chosen.
Thoth was considered to be the one who gave us writing and numbers and the arts of self-cultivation through works of consciousness. Some people thought he was a person who was then deified through his accomplishments. Other people feel that this has been a mythical entity from the beginning.
Legends held that a book of magic written by Thoth contained the secrets of the gods.
The Book of Thoth was actually considered to be in the astral plane. Not a physical thing, but something that you had to actually travel in consciousness to arrive at. And so this is probably one of those very old incidences of channeling where an individual would get into a special state of mind, contact the Thoth energy wherever it was to be found, and then be tutored by this multilingual, multi-code kind of consciousness.
What kind of a creature was this?
Well, he was really a very special being. He wasn't a Homo sapien like us because according to the ancient tablets, we came along much, much later in the geological
We may have been
timescale.
seeded by them, right?
Yes. Well, I really think that they are like our cousins and we look like them. I think that Homo sapien are the new kids on the block, and that these ancient beings, these beings of old, were here many, many millions of years ago and had developed technologies to extend their lifespans for many tens of thousands of years.
What was Thoth's role? What was its purpose?
Well, this is where we get the word thought from. So he was the bringer of knowledge and wisdom to mankind. All the different languages on the planet, he was ordered to teach all the different languages, to teach the civilizations how to develop different levels of technology. And also he was the master architect of the pyramid structures all over this entire planet. That was one of the key roles. As a matter of fact, in the Emerald Tablets, he says himself, he built the Great Piece. I built the Great Pyramid. So he developed the Great Pyramid and that technology. And then after they rose the land of Chem back to a higher level of civilization, he told the people that came along with him, his crew members, to spread out all over the planet and duplicate exactly what they did there.
Billy, did he have a lifespan? I mean, how long did he live?
These beings are capable of living for tens of thousands of years. He talks about going into this place called the Halls of Amenti, which is underneath the Great Pyramid. That's where he put it. And that recently those rooms have been discovered down there, by the way. But anyway, he goes into these regeneration chambers where he takes an avatar body, then he puts into a regeneration chamber and leaves it in there for 100 years. While he walks amongst men in another avatar body. This is why he had so many different names and so many different looks over many eons, because he was utilizing these avatar bodies.
But it's the same him.
It's the same him. He transfers his consciousness from his avatar body to the next one that's regenerated, and he puts that depleted avatar body, either he gets rid of it or puts it back into a rejuvenation chamber and regenerates that one again. So they have done this for tens of thousands of years.
Isn't that what we're trying to do now with cryogenics? And by downloading memory, so you can put it into a different body and you live forever?
Well, we've gone even a step further than cryogenics now. They've just developed the first DNA hard drive, Microsoft has. So you can take 1 gram of DNA can store 433 petabytes of data. So they discovered that it can store digital bits of zeros and ones and information. So they've created a digital DNA hard drive, which was the biggest limitation on transferring consciousness. So now we have the capability of transferring consciousness into a storage capacity. And then with now the creation of the ability to create create avatars from stem cells,
right?
We can literally take a skin cell from your body, put it under the right chemical conditions in a laboratory, create a clone of you up to whatever age specified, and then transfer your consciousness from your body, your mind into that new avatar.
Amazing. Now, the Emerald Tablets. Tell me the Emerald Tablets' role and what they are.
Well, the Emerald Tablets were a writing that were authored directly by Thoth himself. In other words, he didn't have a scribe write these. He wrote them himself, which is kind of unique for back in those times. They would usually a god or a king, they would have a scribe do all the writing. These he authored. And he said that he was leaving these behind to guide mankind back into the golden age, basically, back into the light.
Almost like the 10 Commandments?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look at the Emerald Tablets, you start to realize you're reading something that predates a biblical text by tens of thousands of years, and the Bible is saying almost the exact same thing when you look at some of the wording in the New Testament. So I kind of show side by side where Jesus is quoted as speaking in the New Testament versus what Thoth is saying in the Emerald Tablets, and you're going, oh my God, which came first, the chicken or the egg? You're seeing that the words are matching up. But when you go and research further into the words of Jesus, which is really his name is Yeshua, you discover something in the Gospel of the Holy 12 where he left and went to Egypt to live. And I've actually been to the place he lived in Egypt, in Coptic Cairo. And then from there he went to Tibet and also to India, where he learned mystic arts and Reiki healing with his hands, teaching reincarnation the whole way back. So he was a student of the mystery schools.
Could Moses have been given the Emerald Tablets as opposed to the so-called 10 Commandments?
Moses got his information from something called the 42 Laws of Ma'at, which is something that's out of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or the Book of Going Forth by Day. And there's actually 42 commandments, out of which they took 10 and they made it into the modern day Bible.
Where are the Emerald Tablets today, Billy?
I really believe that the Emerald Tablets, the original version, are underneath the Vatican archives in that 5 acre, hidden away, down way beneath that 5 acre archive they have, or 5 mile archive they have underneath the Vatican.
Interesting. Who would have translated them?
Oh, lots of people have translated them over many years. Have St. Thomas Aquinas, the Queen of Sheba, Sir Isaac Newton translated the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, which is actually on display at the Cambridge Library.
Wow.
Many famous people, Michael Doreal, Roger Bacon. So lots of very well-known scholars have come in contact with this information and deciphered it over many years.
Edgar Cayce has talked about in his day the Hall of Records, and he said they were located in 3 places throughout this planet. Did Thoth have Hall of Records too?
Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, he claims to have had a Hall of Records that were hidden, one underneath the Great Sphinx and one inside of the Great Pyramid itself. And I think that they've found both. In my personal opinion, when you look at a lot of the research that have come out over the last few years, they found this chamber. They were doing a cosmic scan of the Great Pyramid, something called a muon scan.
Muon scan?
Yeah, muon. And during this muon scan, using cosmic rays, they found this hidden chamber above the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid, this massive open area, which might be one of the locations of one of these Hall of Records.
What could be in there?
Oh, wow. A lot of secreted texts from the ancient mystery schools, the true knowledge and wisdom that was meant to be passed on to mankind in our current era, which unfortunately a lot of the stuff that has been found, I think has been swept away and hidden by some of the elites. But I really do believe that there could be information of high advanced technology, 0-point energy devices, esoteric wisdom and knowledge.
Flying machines, everything?
Well, he talks about the fact that he has a flying machine or a spaceship hidden underneath the paw of the Sphinx. And recent scans discovered that there's a huge, massive object there.
There's something down there.
Yeah, there's something down there. And unfortunately, there's also massive tunnels down there too. So we would never know if they used one of those tunnels to get access to this thing and move it away. I know there was a very big special that was going to air live about 5 years ago on one of the science channels. And then the night that it was supposed to air, it got canceled.
Why?
I just think that somebody at a higher level said, you know what, we're going to pull this. We're going to go down there and see what it is ourselves and maybe get it. They were going to release the scan images and everything live on TV. And then it got cut.
Billy, what does this tell you about our ancients and our ancient past?
Well, it tells us that they were very highly advanced, very sophisticated. The evidence is all around us. We can't duplicate some of the things that they've done just with architecture. Can't imagine what they've been able to do technologically to be able to even to be able to build that architecture. So I think that there's a lot of evidence around, including in these ancient texts, that talk about flying machines, talk about different types of engines, talk about different types of tools and technologies. Even in the book of Enoch, it talks about the fact that these beings came down from the sky and taught humans how to build weapons of war and everything else. So it tells us that these people that came here, some were good, some were bad, but overall they were highly technologically advanced and they had extensive lifespans, which gave us the illusion that they were immortal.
Now back to Thoth for a second. Why did he have this reptilian bird-like look to it? Or was that just a headpiece costume?
Well, it was just a representation of the ibis bird. So if you look at an ibis bird has to dig its beak deep into the mud to bring up its sustenance and its food. So what the representation there, or the symbology there with Thoth, is that he's going into darkness to bring darkness back to light. So he goes into areas where he always talks about in the Emerald Tablets, where mankind has fallen into a low level of consciousness or fallen into a low level of civilization. And he's got to go down there now and bring them back up. So in the beginning of the Emerald Tablets, what happens is the great flood waters are starting to subside, and the people are coming out of the caves several generations later, and he's saying that they had fallen to a low level, and his dad says, you need to go down there and bring them back, restart civilization there. So this is just a symbology of him going to darkness and bringing darkness back to light.
Was he an alien?
I think that he was an alien. I don't think that they were from this planet at all. When you look into a lot of these ancient tablets now, I've researched and read now over 1,000 tablet scriptures and texts and baked stones and everything else, cylinder scrolls over the last 20 years. And I'm starting to realize that there was an ancient war possibly in the Pleiadian star cluster, which is mentioned in Homer's Iliad and the Bible and everything else. The Pleiadian star, the Seven Sisters, where there was an ancient war. And I really do believe that refugees fled that region. Some ended up in the Orion, some ended up in the Sirius star system.
Sure.
And also some, I believe, ended up on this Nibiru planet, which was orbiting a brown dwarf star. I think that the original refugees that crash landed there is what I think. And that brown dwarf star ended up getting captured by our solar system. And now modern day astronomers are saying that there is another solar system within our own solar system. There's two suns here. One's a brown dwarf and one's our yellow sun.
Well, Zechariah Sitchin, God rest his soul, would be vindicated because
Absolutely.
he talked about this in his books a long time ago.
He sure did. You know, Zechariah Sitchin was one of the greatest researchers. I never stopped saying that. A lot of people were making up stuff about him at the end of his life,
Right.
unfortunately. But the truth is, when you read his prefaces of his books, he tells you where he got his information. It wasn't that he deciphered these tablets. He was going off of deciphered information already.
Right, he was just interpreting them.
That's all he was doing, you know, and his story was pretty much dead on. Now that dozens of other researchers have gone and done their own work, like myself, and we're coming up with the same story, you know, so it's really amazing.
Billy, let's talk about Atlantis for a moment and the Atlanteans. What is their connection to like the Emerald Tablets?
Well, the Atlantean civilization is part of this Anunnaki race that came here. See, the Anunnaki name is a generalization term for people coming from other planets and star systems to Earth. It's not just one specific race of people.
Okay.
And so these Atlanteans, they came here in deep antiquity, and they literally began to develop their own civilization on this planet, a high level of civilization. They came here to mine this planet for resources, not just for gold, but for many other resources. And they also saw it as kind of a fresh start, kind of like a breakaway civilization is what it really became for them. And they developed a high level of civilization here without Homo sapiens sapien, just on their own. At some point, they began to go to war against each other. And this is even talked about in the book of Deuteronomy. This is talked about in many other ancient texts, where these gods started going against each other and fighting. There were some living on Mars called the Igigi, which were the working class Anunnaki. They came down. These are the gods that, you know, the angels that fell from heaven. They came down from Mars to Earth to go to battle against Enlil and Enki. And there was a big war that was about to start, and that's when they decided to make the Homo sapien. But where we lost Atlantis was during this global flood that came, and that's when it washed Atlantis away. But then after that, there was another war. So
Now
these are a warring race.
These Emerald Tablets talk about the Great Flood, which leads me to believe the tablets, after the flood, obviously, right?
Well, yeah, the tablets were written after the flood. Now there was, because the tablets were written after the flood, but the tablets mention life before the flood. So if you look at the Sumerian kings list, which is located in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, England, it's got the kings list of antediluvial kings that ruled over Earth for over 200,000 years. Just a handful of kings ruling for many, some ruling for 14,000 years, some ruling for 28,000 years. These people had extensive lifespans. And this is one of the main displays at the Ashmolean Museum. So pre-flood, there were people here that were not human beings that were ruling over this planet in different cities on this earth, and it's well documented and baked into clay.
And hence the flood, to get rid of them?
Well, it's a combination. It could have been, from Enlil's point of view, to get rid of them, or that they knew it was coming and they didn't want to stop it. They could have stopped it, but they didn't. Or some of the interpretations state that they caused the flood on purpose to get a fresh start on this planet and wipe away the people and everything else and all the technology and start all over again. So that interpretation is kind of up in the air, whether it was something that was geological that could have been prevented but wasn't, or whether it was done by an actual, an act that was like, we want to make this happen right now, and it was done.
What do you think caused the flood, Billy?
I really think that the flood was probably caused by a comet that was coming by, and I thought they saw an opportunity to take this comet and crash it into the planet.
So it did hit.
That's what I think happened. I think that they
Hit
used
the ocean and
used
kicked
the
up water
ocean.
for 40 days and 40 nights, right?
Yeah, a lot of turmoil and everything else on the entire planet. And I think that was probably one of maybe several great floods. I think there were probably two more other floods, but not ones that covered the entire planet, just big regions of different areas.
Did that flood destroy the Atlantic civilization?
Yes, it did. In my opinion, it destroyed the Atlantean civilization. And I think that it was directly in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean is where it originally was, in my personal opinion now from doing a lot of research.
Sure.
And I think that one of the main reasons why I think it was a directed meteor strike was because there was a little bit of anxiety and anger back and forth between these Atlantean people about the fact that some of them had now taken these humanoid clone women, men and women, and started mating with them.
Right.
Outside of their own race.
Creating the Nephilim.
Right. And so it was like, okay, this is enough. And then it became a jealousy thing, and then it became a war. And eventually, when there were so many people on this planet, they decided, you know what, we're going to just wipe everything clean and start fresh again.
Did some of them from Atlantis flee to places like Egypt and then contribute to the building of the Great Pyramids?
Absolutely. Well, that's what happened. Thoth was one of the original Atlanteans. He's the son of Enki. And after they fled, after the Great Flood, they fled to a safe location, not on this planet, because he talks about in the Emerald Tablets in the opening verses that his dad tells him to get in this great ship and take the crew with you and go back to
get
the Earth.
out.
So they actually take off into the sky until they say they saw the planet disappear. When they got to Earth, they then started descending where they saw one of the ancient great temples with the floodwaters residing down beneath it, and that's when they decided to land. So I don't think they're from Earth. They went away and they came back. They're always going and coming all the time.
Sure.
But these are some really advanced people. And when they opened the ship, the doors to the ship, the people at that time now were like barbaric, and they wanted to attack them. And Thoth raises his staff, and he says he sent out a ray of vibration, stopping them still as stone in the mountain. So he had some kind of advanced weaponry that froze these people but didn't kill them. And I kind of compare that in the book to something we have called the active denial system in the military now, where they have the same beam weapon that could stop a crowd from attacking without injuring anybody.
Absolutely.
So
it renders them down to their knees.
Exactly. So I make the comparisons there so you can see we're talking advanced technology in ancient times.
Could the craft that you're talking about, the ships that you're talking about, have been basically the story of Noah's Ark, in the fact that maybe they went up in a spaceship, not a boat?
Yeah, I really do believe that Noah's Ark was a DNA bank. Now, if you look at the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is one of the Sumerian tablets, which is like the full story of Noah's Ark, he was given a design to build an actual submersible. And it wasn't square or rectangular, it was actually round. The actual, the
like
writings,
a craft.
Like a craft. And some of his local animals, just his local farm animals were put on there, but overall, it was really the collection of DNA from all around the planet of animals that they would have needed to re-kickstart civilization. And I think that went into a DNA bank, and then because Thoth and Enki were master geneticists. And so I think it was very easy for them to bring back these animals. So in one part of the Sumerian tablets, they talk about fashioning a lamb, because lambs hadn't been here yet. So these people were very advanced genetically and were able to make all these animals.
There was a point where I would say we've lost all this past information, but researchers like you have obviously found it.
It's here. You just have to read so many different things and research so much information to paint the big picture. You can't just go, I'm going to read this one book and I'll learn about the ancient past.
It's not going to happen that way.
No, you've got to go through thousands of texts and scriptures and books and writings and perspectives and information. And you have to research modern technology, because you can't envision what they're trying to say if you don't compare it to something in the modern times. And we have a lot of modern technology right now that will really give you an idea of what they were talking about in the ancient past.
Are they still here, Billy?
I really do believe they are. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth talks about the fact that they walk amongst men, but unlike men. So they use these avatar bodies that they clone and create, and they put their consciousness into them. They call it transfer my ego into this, sleeve, basically.
Do they know what they are?
They know what they are.
They do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they've long shed their original avatar bodies that they were probably born with, and they've now just been jumping from body to body. I don't think that they jump from bodies that are not theirs. It appears that they have the capability of making their own sleeves, and they transfer into those bodies.
Since this has been going on since the beginning of time, I would think, are they doing this on other planets too?
Oh, I really do believe so. One of the biggest things that I've researched are space anomalies, and I've made the news on that many times. Sure. Researching information from the NASA and the European Space Agency, the Russian Space Agency, the Indian Space Agency, and looking into all of their space data from the probes that have been sent out, all the rovers that have been sent out. And we've now, the United Family of Anomaly Hunters, we've cataloged thousands and thousands of images, over 58,000 anomalies in our solar system alone. And a lot of these things look like things just, on Earth. On Venus, I discovered through the USGS.gov a radar image of a city there. And this city actually looks like it's got a temple on it with a cross.
My gosh.
So I think that they've duplicated this thing over and over again, masquerading as gods as they go, and utilizing people as cattle to do a lot of the work for them.
I got a call a couple of weeks ago from a former NASA employee who is well known, but I'm not going to mention his name yet. and he's in bad health, very bad health.
wow.
And he said, George, I want to put together a bunch of documents and send them to you. Give me your address. And I said, what's in these documents? And he said, you got to see them first, but they're coming from within NASA. I can't wait to get these things.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows what they are?
Oh yeah, it's probably going to be a lot of anomalies that weren't obfuscated. There's a lot of stuff that's popping up that's coming out now, and the government's kind of really giving us a drop-by-drop disclosure and letting people kind of get the information. They're not really outwardly denying aliens and UFOs anymore. So they're kind of just letting us be the researchers and look it up and bring it to the general population as like we're a form of the disclosure as well.
Our Gaia series called Ancient Civilizations explores the mysteries of the Great Pyramids as well.
There is an ancient code to be found within the Great Pyramid. It's within the geometry, not just of the pyramid itself, but its relationship to the other two main pyramids of the Giza Plateau. Having studied this for a number of years, it seems to be related very much to do with the idea of the music of the spheres, the idea that there is some kind of connection between the primal tones of the universe itself and their relationship to the creation of form and structure in the physical world, and that to somehow attune and enhance this connection, that certain proportions have to be constructed into the design of the pyramid and also the geometry of the landscape itself. And these seem to reflect the musical intervals.
Billy, the technology and the architecture of the pyramids are absolutely astounding.
Yes.
How did they do this?
Well, Thoth is the master architect of this whole thing. He really laid
He did
out
everything.
He did everything. He laid this out. What he did with the Great Pyramid was he took some type of advanced computer program and said, okay, here's all the data that we've collected on Earth, the dimension of the planet, the size of the planet, the distance of the planet from the Earth to the moon, and so forth and everything
Where
else.
they built them?
And he
He
built the Great Pyramid directly at the center of the landmass on Earth. Not the center of the Earth, but the center of the landmass. So think about that for a minute. In order to find out the center of landmass, you have to have a scan of the entire planet.
Yes, and you can only do that
with technology.
If you like this video and you want to see more amazing content, go ahead and check out the next video on our channel.